A pleasure to meet all at last, and welcome back once again to HJN Super Graphix. So for the next one, we have number 2622, and I have of course talked a bit about Spongebob Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, but what do we say that we go for a different Spongebob game? One that was made about 3 years later, and it was also one of the first 2023 titles that I played, Spongebob Squarepants The Cosmic Shake. This was definitely a lot different than what we had gotten in Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. It wasn't exactly about collecting golden spatulas, but in this case we were exploring several different worlds thanks to a wish-granting mermaid. And for the matter at hand, SpongeBob SquarePants unfortunately does encounter a similar problem that had happened with Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, but it actually gets to the point where we not only have SpongeBob determined to save his world once again from evil all around, but Patrick Star, his best friend, unfortunately does become basically a floating ghost. Yeah. He accompanies SpongeBob throughout the entire length of the journey, all the way to the very end, as SpongeBob does find himself exploring different worlds, from Bikini Bottom itself to an old western world, a prehistoric world, a Halloween sort of world, and we even got ourselves a castle. Yeah, literally straight out of the medieval times. So in terms of the overall gameplay, it's basically similar to what we got in Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, but the Cosmic Shake, rather than collecting golden spatulas, we are indeed collecting pink slime. Pink slime that are we at first utilizing by trapping enemies in bubbles thanks to a bubble wand that SpongeBob uses as a weapon, and then slapping the wand against the bubbles, causing the enemies to pop out of existence. That's usually, for the most part, how we gather pink slime. There's also golden tokens that we can find as well. And in terms of the health bar, it's ranked by underwear. And for the most part, there is a unique progression system in which that we can exchange some of these different currencies in order to increase our health, increase our speed, jumping powers, and there's even some unique items that do allow us to gain special abilities over time. The further we go into the game, the more pink slime we collect, the more enemies we defeat, the more boss battles that go around, and overall, it's a unique adventure. Something way different than we had gotten from other SpongeBob titles. THQ Nordic was able to take advantage of SpongeBob and turn it into a unique piece for modern gamers like ourselves. And early 2023 was pretty much stacked with some unique hits in the gaming industry. Not just with Cosmic Shake, but there was also Bardock Alone Against Fate, which at the time was the latest DLC and probably the best that Dragon Ball Z Kakarot had to offer. And just think, that was 3 years after the game itself came out in January of 2020. And we could say that a lot has happened since then. But Cosmic Shake, overall, going from start to finish, where SpongeBob is basically encountering familiar characters from the show, even his own friends like Squidward and Sandy Cheeks, Mr. Krabs, they basically do appear in the different worlds. They are essentially like different dimensions. All because this mermaid is in fact bent on not only getting as much of the slime as possible, but also helping to restore balance to the universe, which is technically the main context as to how the title got its name. It's definitely a Cosmic Shake. But surprise, surprise, what do we got here for a final boss? Well, SpongeBob ends up in some sort of abandoned amusement park, and he basically has to stop this newfound evil that erupts in his world after all the worlds have been explored and all the people have been saved. And all the pink slime has been collected. But for the most part, we definitely have ourselves an epic boss battle with some strategy in mind and puzzle elements. Much like with the actual levels, there's a lot of exploration in mind, some puzzle solving, and some unique ways to get through certain obstacles. I mean, you gotta use your ingenuity in mind and all the tools you've collected. Not to mention, with all that pink slime you've gathered throughout the whole length of the game itself, the gold tokens, and all the extra underwear you've gotten a hold of for the battles in hand, with the main bosses, of course. It's certainly a bit of a standard fare type of game in which that there's open world explorations, multiple worlds to choose from, many bosses that inhabit these different worlds, and basically a final boss that appears. It's a lot of the same old stuff, but for SpongeBob standards, it does a good job at what it is. And I can't exactly say that it's probably that much better than Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, but the Cosmic Shake being all original rather than it just being some not so great way to remake an old game from the early 2000s. To be fair, I will say that Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated and the Cosmic Shake have both chalked up to a nice extent in order to allow for us modern gamers to experience the world of SpongeBob SquarePants in all of its glory. And of course, if you want to get to an even more recent standby, there is the Patrick Star game, which unfortunately doesn't seem to be in a great spot at this point. But for the Cosmic Shake, it does a good job at what it is. It's a unique SpongeBob adventure where he's blasting bubbles, collecting slime, and essentially helping out a wish-granting mermaid. It's all the same sort of stuff that one would expect from normal adventure and action type of games like this, but it still does leave you satisfied. And I know for sure that I was more than thrilled with the overall outlook of this game itself. And I'm sure willing that maybe they'll have other SpongeBob games like this down the line. Until that happens though, I'll give SpongeBob SquarePants The Cosmic Shake a good enough scoring of 7.8 out of 10.1. While not exactly something that I would consider masterpiece material due to it being a bit of the same as many other contenders I've talked about so far, THQ Nordic at least did a good job at handling SpongeBob in whatever way they could. And to give a whole new original adventure certainly meant that it had the opportunity and it took it like a champ. I feel like that concludes this piece for now, but I will be back tomorrow with some more of this stuff. So make sure to like, subscribe, comment, follow me wherever you can find me, and stay on the Hollywood side for more.